things have changed. A couple of things have happened. First, Europe and Japan recovered, and that didn't necessarily mean the United States lost its global edge, but it meant that there were other players on the field, there were other people at the table. More critically, Asia learned to link its historic comparative advantage, which was cheap labor, with industrial and information technologies. Okay? And that meant that essentially they were able to bring to the table two comparative advantages rather than one. They didn't just have the industrial technology. They had the industrial technology, and because of a population reality that creates a much larger labor supply, they had in a sense, have an essentially endless supply of people who will work for almost nothing. Information technologies, collapse of the Soviet Union, global free market policies, over the course of the past 20 or 30 years have created a unified global market and capital, which has made the reallocation of resources from one place to another simply a matter of point and click. So that if you can generate a higher return in Pyongyang than you can in Pittsburgh, you turn on your computer and you move your investments. And suddenly there's economic activity in some remote part of rural China that had previously been a backwater, and what had been a prosperous industrial center enters a period of profound and protracted decline. The result is that in the United States and Japan and Europe, in different degrees and at different paces at different places, due to different national economies, different local economies, and different policies, wages are gradually declining towards global market levels. And that happened first in low technology sectors, like textiles, which have all but disappeared in a place like the United States. Then it hit the mid-technology sectors like steel and auto, which haven't completely disappeared because there are some supports for having some of that happen in the United States, but they've certainly declined. And now, after the past couple of waves of economic crisis, we see that happening in the high technology and information sectors as well. Some of you may remember back in 1992, a man named Robert Reich, Clinton's first labor secretary, published a book called The Work of Nations. And it really was an attempt to set out in popular and, frankly, politically palatable form the inevitable consequence of these changes. And if you read Reich's book, what he'll tell you is that these changes mean that the only people who can earn a living wage are going to be what he calls symbolic analysts, who are innovators and problem solvers. And that we therefore need to invest in higher education to train as many innovators and problem solvers as possible. The difficulty is that although he was a good thinker, he was also, of course, a politician, and couldn't really put the matter in its raw form. He couldn't tell the truth in its undiluted form. The underlying economic theory behind his claim, and I think the claim is basically correct, is that in order to earn above world market wages under present conditions, you need to be able to capture a monopoly rent on skill or innovation. Okay? Monopoly rent on skill is the concept that economists use to explain why people who don't own capital but have really unique skills, like basketball players and movie stars, earn really, really, really high incomes. Okay? Because the skill level is off the map. Only a small number of people have that skill level. They're way off the map. There's lots of good basketball players. There aren't many Michael Jordans. There's a high demand. People want it. You could have a very high level of the skill that nobody wants as well. And monopoly rent on innovation is simply what happens when you come up with a new invention and patent it, and if you have decent intellectual property laws, nobody else can do that for a while. Although, as we've seen with the Microsoft Apple story, an engineer and two lawyers, reverse engineering those monopoly rents tend to disappear very quickly. Similarly, the prescription that Reich came up with, while it was really great for universities because it meant that there should be a lot more investment in universities, was fundamentally unrealistic. Basically his idea was, well, we need to train everybody to be one of these people he called symbolic analysts. I don't know why he came up with that term, but what he meant were people who were innovating at a level to capture these monopoly rents. That's what he's talking about. And the difficulty is that prescription has the same flaw as the old No Child Left Behind law, which requires that every school in the country have all of their children above average. Of course, you don't have to be even average to understand why that's impossible. Okay? What we're actually talking about would not be simply investing in everybody having a university education. We would be investing in everyone being at something like the level of the top 2% of graduates from the most elite universities on the planet. Okay? Well, you can't be in the top, not everybody can be in the top 2% of universities that only take the top 2% to begin with. Can't happen. It's not going to happen. Okay? And that fundamentally is why people are currently so profoundly freaked out. Okay? That's why they're running around occupying Wall Street, and that's why they're doing things like the Tea Party, and that's why they're, on all across the political spectrum. People are desperate. People are searching for solutions to a problem that does not really fundamentally have a good solution. The liberal education gives you the capacity to act effectively in the public arena, which is something that any enterprise needs its leaders to be able to do. Okay? If you don't know how to get on the phone and engage this gentleman's boss in effective deliberation and debate, you're not going to be an effective business leader. Gives you the capacity to work across cultures. And of course, research universities also create much of the value which is eventually realized by new enterprises in the high-wage, high-skill, high-technology sectors. Okay. So that's kind of the global picture